Welcome, craft beer friends, to Season 7, Episode 20 of Tap the Craft Podcast. I am Denny Lewis, coming to you from Boise, Idaho, and my partner in craft, the dog whisperer, and my favorite Florida man, also known as Drinking Eagle, from Tampa, Florida, Mr. Chris McKenzie. How you doing tonight, Chris, and what is in your glass?
We need a eagle scream sound effect once we start moving into some other stuff, just for that specifically. But
okay.
I'm doing really good tonight, Denny. I'm like we were talking about a little earlier, both a little on the tired side.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? Maybe the tired will make the
yeah. No, you just gotta drink. I just gotta drink some beer, and then I start loosening up, and I wake up, and then I'm wired for the rest of the night.
Okay.
And the beer that I'm drinking, it will help me stay awake too.
Oh.
But before we talk about my beer, what's in your glass?
Yeah, so let's talk about what's in my glass. So my beer in my glass this evening, and by the way, if I didn't say it, I'm doing pretty fantastic, but other than a little tired. I'm drinking a beer that has two really good names.
Okay.
Not only the brewery, but the name of the beer too. So the beer is called Medicine Ball. Let's see how I do it today.
Your focus is a little bit. There we go.
There we go.
Nice.
Come on, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. Medicine Ball Dodgeball.
Okay.
First off, if you're playing that game, I want to watch. From a brewery called Crooked Pecker Brewing Company.
Oh my gosh.
In Chagrin Falls, Ohio.
Oh.
And this beer was given to me by my buddy Art Warchek. We had a little beer exchange go on. He had won a lottery from the folks over at Cigar City. He actually won 4 bottles of beer in this lottery, and he texted me and goes, "Hey, you're still in Tampa, right?" And I went, "Yeah, why?" He goes, "Can you ship some beer for me?" He's like, I'll get you some thank you beers or whatever you want. And I was like, sure, we could totally do that. So I shipped him some beer, and he goes, "Just let me know how much I owe you." I said, "I tell you what, fill the beer shipper up and send it back to me. We'll call it even."
Nice.
So Amanda Argour checking in too, saying, "What's up, friends?"
Hey, Amanda. And Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin's probably easy. Well, Kevin's probably either right there or Kevin's asleep on the couch next to her or something. But but yeah, so we did a little beer exchange. I got some 4 Jackie O's beers and this one and another one that I'll be cracking open here in a little bit too, maybe. But enough about me, Denny. I want to know what's in your glass. I want to know how you're doing today too.
I'm doing well. Just like you. I'm a little bit tired, but as we start drinking some of these beers, starting with this first one that I'll be drinking from Mother Earth Brewing. Here in the Nampa, Idaho area. This is their, and you already saw this one from last week.
Yeah.
The Milk Truck Latte, and I'm not very good at focusing either. Latte Stout. Yeah, it's got vanilla, coffee, and lactose, and some oats to make it extra creamy. And I got a 6-pack of this, and I'll tell you what, this is a great beer. I really am enjoying it. I think I gave it a 4-cap rating on Untapped, and it's a milk stout. So everyone knows that I've never really been a huge fan of milk stouts. I have been drinking more of them lately because a lot of breweries are doing it right. They're not making them too sweet. They're putting a little bit of lactose in there to kind of tone out, mellow out some of those, some of the bitterness from the dark roasted malts or whatever, but not enough to make it so it's too sweet and not very good. This one's got some great flavor, and it's got a nice body to it too. Sometimes those milk stouts can be very thin, right? Thin and sugary. And this one's really good. And I'm drinking it out of, again, people probably already saw this if you watched the Fermented Reality beer cast, but it's hops and barley. It's this year's Idaho Craft Beer Month glass for Pints Up Idaho that we had last week. Or the week before last, actually. It was I think it was the Thursday our show was released, was the glass day. So Sarah and I went out to Mad Swede, where we've gone every year since they've been doing this pint glass thing, and we got our beers, got our glasses, and I've been drinking a lot of Idaho craft beers during this month. I always drink a lot of Idaho craft beers, but because it's Craft Beer Month, I want to make sure I support all our local breweries and get a lot of the different beers So this is one of 3 Idaho beers I'll be drinking. In fact, another one I'll be drinking from Mother Earth will be their Cali Cream and Orange Sickle Cream Ale.
Oh man.
I got 1 can of that left, and I'll drink that. And then I'm going to do also a beer from Payette Brewing, which is my favorite lager. Like if I want a lighter lager that just is clean and goes down really smooth and easy, it's their North Fork Pale Lager. Really great lager. I drink a lot of that every summer because I love it. The other lager they do that I really appreciate, but it's a little bit heavier, so I don't drink it as much as I drink the other one, is their Vienna lager, which is their, and you know what? I'm going to lose the name of it. I know the name of all their beers, but right now I think it's slipping my mind. But yeah, so I'll be drinking those 3 beers, all Idaho beers, all local beers tonight on the show. And I'll be drinking this one out of this fancy Willie Becker style glass. And then I'll be drinking the other ones because I don't want to mix the dark with the lagers and the cream ale. So I'll be drinking out of Nonic pint, English Nonic pint.
You brought 2 glasses. You impressed
prepared.
me, Kenny.
Yeah, prepared.
I brought this one, and it's hard to see too, but it's it's from our sponsor, Brewer Shirts, right? So it's got a hop on there and Humulus lupus.
It's blending into your beer behind you there.
I know,
green screen fun.
Well, it's funny. Oddly enough, I'm wearing a green shirt today too.
Yeah, so it's a blue screen.
Yeah, so when I turned it on today, it was funny because I had just the city line of Tampa right through my shirt, and everything behind me was green.
You were headless. Yeah, you just had arms and head. Like
something was weird. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was kind of a little backwards. So when I did this, it was nice, but when you got that and you go completely messed up.
Wow. That is pretty sexy.
Tell me about it. Right. So we're getting technology working here. Jeremy Garrison checking in as well.
Oh, hey, Jeremy. Guys? Good. Hey, thanks for joining us, Jeremy. Appreciate that. So well, you know what? Let's get this show started. But before we get into the meat of the topics and everything, I always want to let anyone new listening to the show know what Tap to Craft podcast is all about. We are an educational podcast. We like to focus around celebrating all things craft beer because we want to assist you, our listeners, along in your craft beer journeys and your adventures. And hey, we're all about educating you guys with craft beer. Listening to episode 176, recording today, Monday, April 19th, 2021. In this episode, we're going to discuss another topic brought to us and to you from one of our great listeners, Tara Carlson, who is watching us right now live. And this was kind of she had like 8 topics that she, gave to us for our contest. And last episode, we talked about diversity in craft beer. In the same topic, she also wanted to find out a little bit more about women in brewing, the history of women and what happened, why they, they were primary, from what she understood, they were primary brewers early on in the whole brewing process. So I separated them into 2 topics because that would be too long to have diversity and women, history of women in brewing in one topic. So this is part 2, which will be the history of women in brewing, where we're going to talk about how women got started in the brewing, why they kind of fell out of the brewing, and how they're re-emerging themselves into the brewing process. So it's, and out of that, I even have another topic that I'm going to eventually work out, which is, again, it's a more history. We did a 3-part segment on the history of beer. And I want to dive into a little bit more because when I was doing this research, I found some very interesting stuff on some of the early beer creations that were going on that women were responsible for doing that I hadn't heard about before. But again, I didn't want to make this episode too long, so I kind of separated that. I'll put that into another topic eventually. But so Tara provided a lot of good content for me to pull from, so I really appreciate that. Of course, you can count on Chris and I have some great conversation along the way because we've already had some good conversation and we just got started. So I also want to thank our Patreon supporters. This episode is brought to you in part by our satisfied Patreon supporters like Mike Allen and William Slimmer, who are our virtual producers. We also have Tom Byrne, Jeff Seiler, Johan Halberg, Tara Carlson, Chad Lamassa, Mark Church, Matt Knight, and Kirk Tabor, who want to buy us a virtual beer. And if you enjoy the content we provide, we invite you to support the show by toasting your hosts or buying us a virtual beer or even becoming a virtual producer. You can explore the options on our support page by visiting patreon.com/tapthecraft. Now, Chris, I already kind of mentioned that some of the topics that are being brought to us in the next few episodes are from our listeners. So why don't you tell everyone why that's happening and maybe how other people could join in and possibly win our next contest.
Our next contest from our sponsors over at Brewer Shirts. So guys, what we're looking to do is we're looking to have you, yes, you, submit some ideas to us for the show, right? Denny, and I can't even take credit for this, Denny creates almost every single episode that comes through here, every idea, every show outline that, by the way, is like 12 or 15 pages long, depending on what you're reading. He puts all that together. And as brilliant as this man is, guys, I can only imagine that it's difficult to come up to with some new ideas. We're on episode 176. That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
So now that I'm going off on this tangent, let's talk a little bit about what the hell I'm talking about. We would love for you guys, if I'd stop dropping stuff, for you to send us some ideas, whether it's through social media, whether you want to send us an email at tapthecraft@gmail.com. If you want to, I don't know, send Denny a letter, whatever.
Snail mail. Yeah.
If you want to do that, we would English is my first language, and I really wish I could get these words out. And we would love to be able to use your ideas on our show. And in turn, we're going to register you guys into our contest for a $20 gift card from our sponsors at Brewer Shirts. So we are looking for, I believe we need one more, Denny.
One more before it's eligible. Yeah.
One more before we will make this drawing to see who is going to win that $20 gift card. So get on your keyboards, and I need you to send me some ideas, or phones, or whatever however you're gonna get it to us. We'd appreciate the ideas, guys, and that way we can keep continuing doing this show and having some fun stuff to talk about. Like this whole women in brewing thing, I was amazed to see, Denny, how many women brewers you guys have in Idaho.
Yeah.
What was it, like 18% or something? That was
we definitely broke the diversity survey results that were presented, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So submit those topics and you'll be entered. Now, we said we weren't going to do it until we hit 5. We only went away from 5 entries, but doesn't mean we can't have more. So go ahead, everyone. Go ahead and submit your entries. Let's give them, if we get it like one right away, let's give them a week.
Okay.
And then if we don't get any more, we'll pick a winner. So that gives people time to get their entries in, even though they've had already 2 weeks, by the time they hear this episode.
I've always wanted to do this too. If what I just said or what Denny said didn't make sense, click this video right here. That's going to pop up on the YouTube feed.
Oh yeah.
I've always wanted to do that. Just be like, click this link right here, and it'll show you what we're talking about. Right. But you also have to follow us on social media things, which you can find us everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, those are the big ones, but we're all at Tap the Craft. Go follow us, guys. Then you see when we're posting this stuff. Oh, you saw that error too, did you?
Yeah. So Chris just mentioned our YouTube video channel, and we are putting up content. In fact, Chris just put something up today that is amazing. And I put up something right after we released the last episode, which is so I released a quick take beer review of the old Rasputin Imperial Stout, Russian Imperial Stout that we talked about on that last episode. Or now I can't remember. Whenever we talked about it,
episode 174. Hey, there's a link to it right here.
Okay,
you can watch 174 right here.
You're
and
good.
Guess what?
You're good.
Here's also a link to Denny's video too.
Okay,
I just have to make sure I write all this.
There we go. Yeah, make sure you don't forget to add all those links. But yeah, so I did a quick take, which my quick takes aren't as quick as Chris's quick takes. He knows how to do a real quick take. Mine are still like 12 minutes long or 13 minutes long or maybe 16 minutes, but it's fun. You get a little bit more insight on me tasting beer and what I have to say about the style and a little bit about North Coast brewing. So yeah, go check out those videos. And then Chris did a great one. It's straight up beer porn. That's what Chris did today.
So proud. Timmy
Johnson. It is so awesome.
Checking in too, by the way. He said, "Hey, it's the boys talking about beer."
That's right. So go check out Chris's 36 second video that strictly is like, if you don't get excited by watching that video, then you're not a real true.
I was really going with aroused, but going for
aroused. Yes, if you're not aroused by that. So go check out our YouTube channel. I wish I could say it was YouTube/Tap the Craft, but we can't get that unique URL until we hit 100 subscribers. We're just a shy bit away from that.
Okay.
Like we're only at 25. So go out there and subscribe. We can get that custom URL, and it'll be easier for people to find our YouTube channel. But we do have quite a bit of content on there now. Chris does release all the video from our Facebook Live. So if you want to go and find a spot that we talk about something and you want to go find that spot and watch it, go ahead and do that. Just go ahead and fast forward and try to find it and watch us live in that one segment you want to see, or watch the whole 2-hour fun. But I know that everyone doesn't have 2 hours to spend watching us on videos. But hey, that's it.
And guess who else got on too? Jeff Weesey.
Jeff.
Remembered how to pronounce it too.
Yes, and we got the name right. So thanks to him. Okay, so now let's get some feedback from our last episode. Now, we just mentioned that we did a diversity in craft beer. And at the beginning of that episode, I hinted, or that segment, I hinted that, hey, you know what? We don't have any numbers of how many of the breweries that submitted a survey actually submitted information on the diversity demographics that they had asked for. And I mentioned that I wish John would have been able to, I could have talked to him and he could look up the numbers that were private to see if there was any numbers that were available. And guess what? John did go and look it up, and there's no numbers that say how many people, but he believes it was probably less than 300 of the breweries that submitted the survey actually submitted the demographics for their diversity portion. So as I thought, just bear with the number, the stuff we talked about. It's a very small subset of the craft beer scene. And that's why when I did the simple breakdown of small little Boise, Idaho, that there was so many female brewers and owners of breweries in just one small town that I thought there's no way that those numbers are 100% correct. So, so that's just want to give that little feedback from the last episode. And we also got some feedback from, we got feedback, but we also got a submission from Eric Gronley on an interesting article that he was curious about. Now, I didn't want to do a whole topic on this, but we will spend a little bit more time than we normally would, because I want to. It's a. I won't say a style. It's a. What would you call this? We had a good name for it on the Fermented Reality. It's like a maybe a beer fad, or a beer.
I don't
variety, like a style variety,
like an alternative. I don't remember what we called it.
Okay. All right. Well, here, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and read what Eric said. And then Chris, I'll let you start in on the article. We're going to read this article because I couldn't I summarized the whole process in the Fermented Reality Beercast, but I want to spend more time on our show because, again, we're educational, and I think our listeners would be curious about how this came about and what they're trying to achieve, and whether or not it's going to be something in the future or not. So Eric Gronley said, "Feel free to take or leave this one. The title alone had me intrigued and also kind of upset. As if there was another way to drink an IPA. Seems like a gimmicky style, but who knows?" And why he says like there's another way of drinking an IPA is because I'll read the article title, Chris, and you can do the rest. The title of the article that he sent to us, and I read this, I think a week or two before he sent it, and I was gonna kind of, I was gonna pass on it, but then when he brought it up, I thought, maybe other listeners are also curious, and so why not just chat about it? And there's some interesting stuff in here. So it's what is a cold IPA? Definition explained by Wayfinder brewmaster Kevin Davey. So if anyone's out there has seen cold IPA, like the style variety of an IPA called cold IPA, you might be curious what this is about too. So Chris, why don't you start us off on the article?
All right. It all started off with a little negativity. I've got an opinion to share. I don't like IPLs, or India Pale Lagers. Sure, many are delicious, and in no way am I saying that beers defined as IPL are bad, but the vast majority are, to me at least, clunky. The clunkiness comes across in two ways, depending on how the IPL was brewed. Those two camps are the IPA with lager yeast approach and the dry hopped lager. That's a good way to look at it. IPA with lager yeast, the recipes in this fashion employ a clean American IPA recipe and sub the yeast from Chico to lager yeast. Usually 34, how would you say this? 34
to 70.
3470. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be okay. So usually 34 to 70, ferment cold and see what happens. The dry hopping doesn't work the same. The lager esters and the uptick in the SO2 really does not work with the American hops. That sticks out like a sore thumb. Usually the fermentation is hurried or it's just mishandled because brewers that try this approach don't hang their hats on lager styles. They just don't stand out enough to gain any footing.
Yeah, so this is an important thing that he mentioned. I'm sorry I should have put in sulfur oxide is what the SO2, if you're not
That's
familiar
sulfur
with that.
dioxide.
Dioxide, yeah. Sulfur dioxide. Thank you. So so that can give off some really off flavors, and that's the problem. If you don't let those flavors like kind of dissipate out, or it's going to be kind of a stink bomb type of a beer. So that's one reason why using lager yeast can be a bit detrimental to these type of hoppy beers. All right, keep going.
All right, where did I stop? The dry hopped lager. Yeah, this takes a normal Pilsner style recipe and changes the hopping from a classic approach to what we see with American IPAs these days. All the kettle hops in the whirlpool, large dry hop with newer IPA hops like Citra, Mosaic, or New Zealand or Australian varieties, or the Huel varieties. The amount of grassiness is heavy. It lacks the spicy bitterness we're accustomed to with Pilsners, and this lends the beers to finish sweet and fruity. All of this distracts from the drinkability. Back in 2017, when I was designing the early beers for Wayfinder, I really didn't want to make an IPL. Wayfinder is a Portland-based brewery that makes about half lager beer and half IPA.
It's like two sides, right?
Yeah. I kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
Portland was just, I skipped that. We may be more known for our lager beers, to which I'm delighted. Portland was just starting to see the trend of the New England IPA. I knew I wanted to master that style and put my own spin on it, and we did with Flower in the Kettle IPA. I also wanted to make a clean,
not flour like baking flour, but but I like the play on it, right? It's
something.
I mean, he's making fun of people who made the initial hazy IPAs by some were putting flour or trying to do things that were bizarre.
Trying to make them, this, for example, this is orange juice. Want to put my own spin on it. I also wanted to make a clean West Coast classic sea-hopped beer with a touch of caramel malt. And we covered that too with Doomtown IPA, named after the classic Wipers song about Portland. But after a while, I just wanted to put my own spin on an IPA. It needed to be something that was categorically different than IPL or other IPAs before it.
Okay, so this is how this whole cold IPA method that he decided to use came about because of these two methods wasn't happy with. So he wanted to come up with a different method. And so that's just why, I mean, that's why I had to leave all this in, because it really, you need to understand where he was coming from and what he was trying to do before you just jump into the style that he's, or the brewing process of a cold IPA that he came up with.
All right. What I came up with is kind of a blend of lots of things. First, I wanted to incorporate adjunct brewing in IPA. Brewing with adjuncts may be the most American way of brewing, so it seemed to fit the way that it seems to fit that way we make it an IPA too. Using rice and corn does add a certain body and mouthfeel, but allows the beer to be dry without being naked and overly bitter. It also gives the beer its stark yellow appearance. Second, I used our house lager strain of yeast, but ferment it warm, 65 degrees, to avoid the excessive SO2. Using a clean fermenting yeast like this allows the hops to shine without a backdrop of ale yeast aromas. We have also tried to make these styles of beer with American ale and Kolsch yeasts. I'm convinced that many New England IPA enthusiasts might confuse ale esters for hop aromas. I'm looking at you, London 3. And Dan Charlie said, "Oh shit, Tim Johnson's here. Bye."
Man, we got over half the Familiar Reality beer cast on.
We just need Joel wherever he's hiding. He's playing with his kittens.
Yeah.
And he wanted to avoid that altogether. Lastly, I added the technique we use for Italian pilsners, the dry hopped spund or dry hop krausen. In this nerdy process, we dry hop at the tail end of fermentation, where there is still plenty of activity, or we add fresh fermenting beer to a finished tank with the dry hops. We achieve 3 things by doing this. 1, we fully carbonate the beer. 2, the still active yeast scrubs any oxygen we add during the dry hopping. And 3, biotransformation of hops.
That's the key, is that biotransformation for those hazy IPAs.
I just like saying it.
Yeah.
All right.
Dirty.
I had a biotransformer once. They were pretty cool. What we ended up with is decisively unique from IPL or dry hopped lager. It has a magnificent hop aroma, clean, assertive bitterness, and a bold, clean finish that makes the drinker crave another sip. I felt it needed a name to differentiate it. So it's a bit wester than West Coast. It's sessionable, but strong and sneaky. It's cold IPA.
It's cold. There you go. So I'll put this link to this article in the show notes. It will be on it'll be on the podcast itself. It'll also be on our website. And they listed about 29 different cold IPAs from different breweries that have tried this style or this variety or process of making a different type of IPL. IPA with some cold fermentation processes. So maybe you have one near where you live and you want to go and try it out. Go hit this link, find out if you have any of these beers that are close by to you, and go try it out. Let us know if if it's something you like or not, and if it's good. I haven't had a cold IPA. No one in my area is doing that right now, but I'm not going to say they won't. Maybe next week I'll run into one of our breweries and boom, there'll be a cold IPA on the menu, and I'll go grab it. So I just thought it was interesting. Again, at first, when I first read this, I thought, okay, this is one of those things like brewed IPA, whatever. It's going to happen, and then it's going to disappear very quickly. But we'll see. Will it stick around or will it not? Who knows? 26 examples. Okay, I was close.
Okay, that was close, but still, I still haven't heard of this yet. There's Aslan. Aslan's on there.
Aslan, yeah. Ecliptic. Yeah. See, these are all Portland.
That's
free. Oh, yeah, mysterious cold IPA. I might be able to find that one.
Georgetown.
That's all. Okay, Georgetown. I have here.
Let's see. New Realm. I've heard of Freem. Rubens.
Yeah. Stay frosty.
Stormbreaker. I like that name.
Stormbreaker is great. I love Stormbreaker beers.
Too.
Yeah. So so it looks like most of them are around the Pacific Northwest. So good luck.
Yeah, that's all kind of out your way. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was seeing a lot of Seattle, Portland, Hood River flipping through this. So it's
yeah.
That's a lot.
I think because Wayfinder is a Portland-based brewery they're I mean they did a lot of collabs with a lot of these breweries too. So a lot of helping them out, with the style and coming up with a collab beer, which is a good way of publicizing your brewery and another brewery and getting that word out more. I want to try to do that more with our podcast. Get the word out. Have some guest spots on some other podcasts and just let listeners that might be listening to another show for a different reason than they listen to ours get an idea of what we're about and maybe listen to our show as well. I mean, because there's a lot of different podcasts out there, whether they're craft beer or not, that don't only talk about craft beer. They just have craft beer as part of their show, and they might have listeners that are listening to them drinking craft beer but don't know enough about it to to dive in themselves and want more information. So that's where we come in. I'm hoping that we can get that spread around a little bit more. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Eric. And thank you, Chris, for reading that article. I hope you don't feel bad. I just dumped the whole thing on you.
Nah, I don't mind it.
Okay, good.
And while we're in the middle of just chatting real quick, I wanted to give a shout out to Steve Korsman, or as we know him on tap, Florida Steve. He's checking in, saying hello. All right. I got to get ready for what you're about to ask me to do.
Yeah. So if you want to be part of the show and send in your questions, comments, or feedback, whatever you want to do, you can do that easily through email at tapthecraft@gmail.com or on Twitter if that's easier for you, or Instagram at tapthecraft. And of course, Chris wants to interact with you on Facebook, facebook.com/tapthecraft, or go visit, and I won't say and go visit our website where you can find all the episodes of Tap to Craft podcast, as well as Fermented Reality Beercast, as well as our YouTube videos, which I need to update a couple of videos. I haven't got the last 2 on there yet, I don't think. So I'll get that done. And so there's a lot of information there. One last thing before we wrap up this and go to Chris, I do have some bad news. I should have said this earlier when we talked about our Patreon supporters. I'm not going to be able to do a Patreon glass. The company I was going through, they changed their whole way of doing things, and now the cost is just too prohibitive for us to spend the money to purchase the glasses first, and then the shipping on top of it would be quite a bit. And there weren't enough people that wanted the glasses that we can get a big enough order to lower that price down. So I'm going to pivot on that and come up with I think what I'm doing is I'm going to come up with a t-shirt design and give all our Patreons, instead of a glass, I will set up the store's front, let you pick the shirt, we'll purchase it for you and send it to your home when that's done. So I'm trying to come up with a few different options for you, and then I'll send out the links, and you guys can go and pick what you want, and or maybe I'll even just give you a gift card or something, whatever. I don't know. I'll have to figure out how it works, but we're going to switch it over to t-shirts. So I'm sorry for everyone that wanted a glass at this time. It's not feasible. COVID totally trashed my glass contact, and I just don't want to pay $20 per glass plus $15 shipping. It's just not, it's not worth it. So we'll do something else, and just stay tuned. Maybe later on we'll get the glass out there.
Yeah. And there was a couple ideas that you and I tossed back and forth too, but that's tough.
Yeah. It's tough. And if I was a company, I still, now that we have, I don't know if Dan and Charlie is still on there, but Chris and I talked about, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could put our logo on a B cup, set of B cups, and get some specially made one? But I know that's tough because, that would be again, you'd have to be a huge order, and there's no way I'm going to order 100 sets of B cups or more, 1,000 or whatever. But maybe, Dan and Joel can talk to us, and maybe we can work out something where we do a combination Fermented Reality Beercast and Tap to Craft B cup option.
Well, I did talk to an Instagram beer person I've been going back and forth with this person, potentially to have on our show just to chat with her. And she had mentioned that she's also been trying to get a hold of the guys at Fermented Reality to have some more B cups printed, because she actually has her own logo on
Oh, really?
a set of B cups. And she was telling me that she bought like 70, 75 of them. And she's like, I need more. And I asked her, I was like, what did you pay for them? And she goes, I don't really remember. She's like, I suck. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe it is an option. So we'll talk to Joel and see if that, and plus that would be a lot easier to ship because they're not going to break.
Right.
And it'll be lighter, and we can get you 4, 4 cups with our logos.
Easy now. But yeah, we can totally take a look at it. And Jeff Seiler said, no problem, Denny. Glasses. We don't need no stinking glasses. I have a feeling
we got the best listeners.
You know what? I have a feeling that just like myself, you guys have way too many glasses in your cabinet, just like I do.
Yeah, that's true. We do. Okay, Chris, now it's your time to shine, because let's continue the conversation, because it's now time to untap the craft and see what our listeners are drinking according to Untapped.
All right. So first check in on our list here is Mr. Matt Knight, or Skinny Matt Knight. He's drinking just for you, Denny, a black IPA by K2 Brothers Brewing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Way to go, Matt.
He gave it 4.25 caps on that beer. He wrote coffee and hoppy, good stuff for sailing in Sea of Thieves. I don't know what Sea of Thieves is, but he is drinking out of a really cool Legend of Zelda glass. So
yeah, he's a big Zelda fan.
Yeah, he's a big just video game nerd in general. In a good way.
He does do a stream, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's every Saturday
Twitch?
or Sunday. Yeah, twitching thing. I see him on Twitter doing that. I need to join him one time and just support him.
Yeah. Tom Byrne is drinking an Apple Brandy Rye Way by Revolution Brewing Company. He said, really enjoyed this. There aren't enough apple brandy barrel beers in my life. I would have to agree with you on that, Tom.
That's what I think Joel would too. He's a big
apple brandy barrel Hunapoo that we had over at Super Bowl. 4.75 caps for this beer from Tom. Next on the list is going to be, and hey, random question, Denny, are you getting any weird popping noises in your headphones at all, or is it just me?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, it must just be you.
That's fine. I can ignore it. Will D is drinking a Rare Cargo by Mokama Beer Company. Solid 4 cap rating on that beer. Got to continue the check-in streak for the 1,733rd show in a row. Chad Lamassa is drinking a Joie de Vivre. I don't speak French. Joie de Vivre by Antietam Brewing Company. I'm going to go with it. I'm sticking with it. I didn't have to take my son to or pick him up from work today, so I can start a bit earlier today. He says, I want to like this style, but I just can't get into it. It's probably because it's written in French. I've tried a bunch, but it might be time to give up on it.
No, don't give up.
It's a beer de garde, so yeah, it's like a farmhouse saison.
Yeah.
But you still rated it 3.75 caps, Chad. Did you just feel bad, or you didn't hurt anybody's feelings, or did you just really not like it? All right, let's read a better one from him. So it's Worth the Drive from True Respite, and he said, I picked this one up at Homemade on Saturday. The name is appropriate. It was about a 90-minute drive, and Cindy and I had a great time at the brewery. They make some great stuff. We always enjoy our trip to True Respite. See, I can't read today. We also enjoyed our trip to True Respite a few months ago. This is a very solid Dunkel, definitely worth it. 4.5 caps for that beer. And Chad, that's a really cool beer label too. I like that one a lot. It's got a Maryland flag on it and all kinds of stuff, car and things like that too. And I lost my spot. Next is going to be Jeff Seiler checking into a Way to Go, Idaho by Ology Brewing Company. And he wrote, delicious hazy double IPA, tropical, citrusy, and dank. Working on a theme tonight. Stay tuned. What's the theme, Jeff? I'll wait for you to respond. Mark Church is drinking a Canteen by Trek Brewing Company. Nice Canteen with our steak dinner on the grill. John's cream ale goes down so smooth. I would have to agree with him. I had one for dinner too.
Oh, was this weekend when you guys met up, or is it next weekend?
No, it was this past weekend.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
cool. I didn't take the pictures, so I didn't get to post anything. Kristen took the picture, the one and only picture. But
one and only.
Well, the one and only picture of John and myself. But we did get the chance to go out to a couple of places, grab a couple of beers too. And then let's see who is next. Got to read this one from Chad Lamassa. It's a Captain Myers by Homemade Brewing Company. Great rye IPA and a decent rye bite. 4.5 caps for that beer.
Nice.
Eric Gronley is drinking a Tropical Fun Pants by Lupulin Brewing Company at Big Boar Barbecue. Great pairing with jumbo shrimp. 4.25 caps. Tropical
Nothing
Fun
like
Pants.
A good Tropical Fun Pants.
Robert, or as we know him, Chew Your Beer, is drinking a double dry hopped Yeah by Highland Park Brewery. My kind of hazy, all citrus and hops, no sweetness. 4.75 caps for this beer. He's drinking it out of his Pac-Man glass, which is pretty neat as well. Jeff Weesey drinking a chocolate orange Lateralis by Lupulin Brewing. Orange peel really comes through in the finish in this rich malty chocolate stout. Cheers. 4.75 caps for that beer.
Sounds like a Christmas beer.
It does. Did you guys ever get those oranges where you smacked them on the table and broke open? Yeah, those were pretty good. All right, Jeff, let's see if this goes into your theme. Living in Your Own Private Idaho by Baramari Brewing Company. Lovely hazy double IPA, Idaho 7 and Idaho Gem Hops. Feeling the Idaho vibe tonight. Cheers to Denny Loose, a.k.a. Loose Screw in Boise. 4 caps Jeff. On that beer.
I need to go on Untapped and hit that
where
like
you
button.
been?
I've been strong. I've been strong the weekend. I went a week with the only time I drank last week was Monday when we recorded the beer cast, because I got my COVID shot and I wanted to give a week of, everything to get, I want my body to be fighting COVID
and
vaccine and beer at the same time. So I told myself I'm going to not drink for a week, but I had to drink on the Monday because we record a beer cast. You have to drink. So I drink that one day and then drink the rest of the week. But when Friday came, I unleashed the beer and I drank a lot this weekend. So I made up for it.
Well, I made up for it on Monday. Let's just say Monday was Tuesday. Tuesday was rough because I had to get up early and go in early. Anyway.
Yeah. That's watch the Fermented Reality beer cast or listen to it to find out why Chris had a rough Tuesday, because it carried on after the show ended with an empty bottle of MD 2020.
Oh God, no. I didn't finish it. I think Megan and Tina finished it. Let's see. I'm going to skip my check-in. Next, let's see. Eric Gronley is drinking a double dry hopped straight hash, homie, by Lupulin Brewing Company. Bomb.com pairs well with the caprese salad, dank, resinous, and pineapple. 4.5 caps. And we're going to have to refresh the screen just to make sure that we read Mark Connor's check-in. And he's drinking a Keller beer by KC Beer.
Ooh,
nice and light with a bit of lemony flavor, but not tart. 4.25 caps for that beer.
Yeah, that's a style that doesn't get mentioned very often.
It certainly doesn't. And it needs to get mentioned a lot more often. But that's what everybody is drinking. Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, good. Some great variety of beers. Everything from Christmas beers to Keller beers. Yeah. I mean, hey, you can't go wrong there.
And Jeff Weesey said that he was thinking the exact same thing with the Christmas orange when he checked in that beer.
Hey, you know what? It sounds good, but yeah, I think Christmas time is where I would probably drink that one a little bit more than coming in the summer, because, weather's starting to get nice. Hopefully everywhere is getting nice. We do have a windstorm going on today, but the weather was let's see, it's 63.
That's good.
But the wind was blowing, so it was kind of like a little bit chilly with the wind blow. But yeah, it's been. I think yesterday it was up to like 74 or something like that. It's like, oh man, it's a beautiful day. I was outside in the yard trying to fix my sprinklers. So every winter you blow out your sprinkler system because you don't want the freeze to break them. So I blew it out. And this is it's a 20-year-old sprinkler system, so it has issues here and there. And I always go to test it out, and sure enough, 2 zones didn't work. I'm like, gosh, darn it. So I'm fighting with the 2 zones. I got one to work without having to replace anything. The other one, the solenoid's not retracting, but also the valve itself, I think, is broken. So I ordered a new valve from Amazon. It'll be here tomorrow. And so tomorrow night, I'll be putting that in and seeing if I can get my last zone to start working. But yeah, it's always fun when, we need to recover from winter.
Yeah. Well, I do have to read one more check-in because Tara, you're right. I scrolled right by this one and I was going to read it. And now I feel that my life is in danger. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I read this one too. Because
how could you leave out Tara?
Because I'm an asshole, Denny. Tara Carlson is drinking a Metro Red by Port City Brewing. She said, spending the day with my father at the doctor's office and getting a mention on Tap the Craft pod. Geez, how could I not read this? Getting a mention on Tap the Craft podcast. 2 excellent reasons to drink on a Monday. Lovely grapefruit rind finish in this beer. She gave it a 4 cap rating, and I didn't even read it.
Come on.
Shame on me.
Yeah, well, hopefully her dad was impressed by all the shout-outs we gave her last week.
I mean, it's, in the beginning, it was like the Tara show, which is awesome.
That's true. Yeah.
She earned it,
hopefully
too.
Hopefully he's subscribing now so he can listen and hear about it, too.
Before we move on, and I know we're getting ready to hop into the brew buzz, I have to show off a cool little toy that I got because my buddy Manny bought me a bottle opener, and I've just been itching to use it on the show. So I got this Duck Rabbit Porter here, and I want to make sure that I open this bottle opener. Tap the Craft on it. I know it's going to be fuzzy, but he had it engraved with Tap the Craft on it. I know we can't see it because it's trying to focus super hard, but it says Tap the Craft on it. I swear. But it's a butterfly knife.
Yeah, you're pretty good at that.
And it's got the bottle opener inside. And you just take it and you just pop up. You guys get to see the virgin use.
Oh, nice
bottle opener. So
it wasn't even your birthday or anything either.
No, well, he said he bought it for me. Like, I don't know. It's he bought it a couple of months ago. He saw it on there. It is. He saw it on just something on, I don't know, Facebook or whatever it was, and he goes, "I gotta buy that." I was like, "Okay, well, I'm glad you did." And I seriously, come on, you can do it. Focus.
No, you're still out of focus. A little bit more. A little bit more. Go. There we go. Totally now you look beautiful.
But really cool toy. And I expected that when I went to open it up, it was going to be all stuck and hard and, really difficult to open. But right out of the box, it was ready to go. So
sweet,
thanks, Manny.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. And you're pretty good at using that. I would probably cut myself even with the bottle opener part.
I was going to say, remember, there's not a knife in here. It's just a bottle opener.
I'm not very coordinated, especially as I got older. Not only is my memory going as I get older, but my coordination is going too. You see this? This is I cut myself cooking dinner tonight.
Using a butter knife?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like, what the hell? I can't even cook without cutting myself. I never cut myself before, and now it's just ridiculous, but it's okay. It's okay. All right, Chris, you ready for the brew buzz?
I'm totally ready for the brew buzz.
Well, let's get this party started. So the brew buzz is devoted to discussing various beer-related topics. And this week, as we already mentioned, we're going to discuss the history of women in brewing. Now, for the most part, I took information from two sites that had a lot of information, and there was links to many other sites, but I got overwhelmed with what I already had, so I didn't go to it. But the first one is Women in Beer, A Forgotten Pairing. And this is from the National Women's History Museum website. And that's the article. I'll have that in the show notes. It was originally posted April of 2013 by Allison Shell, but was updated in May of 2017 by Jeanette Patrick. So it's still a little bit dated as far as modern stuff, but it still has, the history, which is important, from the history aspect. And then I filled in the blanks going to Wikipedia. Now, everyone says, well, Wikipedia is not true. You're right. But all this stuff in Wikipedia on this site, Women in Brewing, has bookmarks or footnotes to go and find where they are. So the information that we're going to have intermixed between the two articles or two sites have been verified with references. So it's not, for the most part, it's going to be pretty accurate, I think. But I'm not an expert, so I got to base it off of the experts that did all the footnotes and verified it. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and start this off and give Chris a little break so he can drink some beer and lubricate his vocal cords a little bit so he can take away from me.
Lubrication's important.
All right, so yes. All right, so if you look at the brewing business today, the majority of micro and macro breweries are owned and run by men. We already saw that last episode. Did you know in the 18th century, a good portion of breweries or brewers in America were women? Did you also know that the feminine form of the word brewer is brewster?
Oh.
A testimony how masculinized brewing has become is the fact that the word brewster is not even used to describe female brewers today. Instead, many are now referred to as brew masters. So that sucks. I mean, this is a historical term that women in brewing was known as. And I think, yeah, so if you want to go to the politically correct and everyone feels good thing, I guess brewmasters can account for anyone. You don't want to call a male brewer a brewster by accident. So maybe brewmaster is right. But I don't know, if female brewers want to be known by the historical name, then maybe they should. But again, maybe it's not a good name either. Punky Brewster is what I think of when I hear Brewster. So that might not be a good reference there. All right. Women's involvement in brewing beer has been documented back to 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia and possibly earlier. And we'll find out that it does go back further. But as far as the documentation portion, it goes back to Mesopotamia for sure. That's documented. Historically, women were involved in brewing. Ethnographic and archaeological studies have shown that brewing was an outcropping of gathering or baking traditions, which were predominantly women's roles throughout the world. From the earliest evidence of brewing in 7000 BC until commercialized brewing during the industrialization, women were the primary brewers in all inhabited continents. Continents, the primary brewers. So there were also many taverns owned by women, and thus it is likely that they also brewed their own beer. In many cultures, the deities, the goddesses, and protectors of brewers were female entities who were associated with fertility. Ancient Sumerians even had a goddess of beer. That was Ninkasi. So we know of Ninkasi as far as Ninkasi Brewing, named after the goddess of beer. So from the middle of the 18th century, many women were barred from participating in alcohol production and were relegated to roles as barmaids, pub operators, bottlers, or secretaries for breweries. In less industrialized areas, they continued to produce home brews and additional alcoholic beverages. From the mid-20th century, women began working as chemists for brewing establishments. Beginning in the 1960s and 70s, they began re-entering the field as craft brewers. So there's the synopsis of it. Now, I put together some history notes going way back to, some documentation of female brewers in different cultures. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and start with the Chinese culture?
In Chinese legend, Yi Di, wife of Yu the Great, you are the great, Denny, is credited with making the first alcohol from rice grains. A female divine being in Ainu mythology known as Kaimu Fuki was the protector of brewing, and brewers prayed to her and offered libations to ensure the warding off of evil spirits, which might spoil the batch.
Mhm.
Got to pray to her more often. Traditional Germanic societies were reported by the Romans to drink ale made predominantly of fermented honey produced by women, until monasteries took over the production of alcoholic beverages in the 11th century, making it a profession for monks and nuns. Brewing was the domain of tribal Germanic women. Migratory Germanic tribe women typically brewed their meads and ales in the forest to avoid pillages by invaders.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to hide in the forest so invaders wouldn't steal all their beer.
Yeah, well, you got to hide your stills. You can't just be, making it wherever. In the decades before the Black Death in Europe, many households required a large amount of ale. I required a large amount of ale at my house too, because of a lack of potable water and expense of other beverages. Women used the opportunity of brewing to make extra money at home. In Brigstock, some women obtained licenses to brew over several months. Women in northern England were the main brewers for the community. Fast forward to colonial America, the craft of brewing beer was brought over from Europe, and women resumed their roles in society as tavern keepers and brewers. But tavern keepers were not the only women brewing. Housewives were as well, and brewing beer was one of the many tasks on their long list of daily duties. Beer was consumed more than water at this time, and one needed to have a steady supply of this beverage on hand. As elsewhere in Europe, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay.
Finish this one, and I'll finish off the last.
Okay.
After you do this one.
As elsewhere in Europe, the founding of guilds often forced women out of the brewing industry. However, in Haarlem, in the Netherlands, because women were allowed to inherit guild memberships from spouses, many continued in the profession. Data collected on the period between 1518 and 1663 showed that 97 brewsters, 3/4 of whom were widows, were operating among a total of 536 brewers in the city. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so interesting fact that they could, in the way to get around them not being able to, to brew because they're women, was they could inherit that guild membership from their husband or their spouse. So, and then all of a sudden now there's, there was, it's only nearly a fifth of the brewers, but that's a lot of female brewers in one area. So yeah, that's interesting. All right. So for around 1,000 years in Finland, women brewsters created a beer called sahti in villages throughout the country. The recipe usually contained hops, juniper twigs, and barley and rye grains, which had been malted and then smoked in a sauna. Finnish legends include the story of Louis. I'm assuming it's Louis.
I would.
Yeah. In the Kalevala, a woman who brewed beer by mixing bear's saliva with honey. The bear's saliva was probably already in the honey, right?
No, they had to go out there and harvest it. Look, if
saliva and the honey,
if they're out there brewing beer and like hiding their meads in the forest, you got to be a bit of a badass to go out there, and we got to go. Come on, we're gonna go get some bear saliva. We got to put it in there.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty tough. If you got to go out there and get the saliva and the honey, you got to fight off bees, fight off bears. I mean, these women were tough women and tough brewsters for sure. All right, now we're going to move into women of the Native American societies in North America, including the Apache, the Maricopa, the Pima, and the Tohono O'odham, brewed a saguaro cactus beer or wine called Tiswin for rituals. Apache women also produced a product made from corn, which was similar to Mexican beers known as tulpe or tulupa, which was used in girls' puberty rites. I mean, they went on further with this. I stopped at that point. I didn't want to go on to details about the use of this in their puberty rites, but I can never say this. The Cohitican.
I'm gonna go with that. Let's see. I'm gonna go with the Coahuiltecan.
There you go. That and other tribes from their Texas vicinity made an intoxicant from yucca and the red beans of the mountain laurel. In 1734, Mary Lyle Lissell or Lissell? Lyle? Yeah. Mary Lyle became America's unofficial first brewster when she took over her father's brew house in Philadelphia. And while Thomas Jefferson is often given credit for a founding home brewer, the credit should actually be given to his late wife, Martha, who supervised the majority of the brewing. There you go. By late 18th century, women as brewers and even brewing as a household art was on the decline, giving way to the male-dominated world of the beer industry. All right, Chris, I'll let you finish off the last couple of paragraphs.
Today, women are slowly infiltrating the brewing industry. Patricia Henry is the first African-American woman to manage a major American brewery, Miller Brewing Company. Now, Miller Coors in Eden, North Carolina, Suzanne Stern Dennison, and Jane Zimmerman worked at and invested in Sonoma, California's long-shuttered New Albion Brewing, established in 1976, and the first brewery in America since Prohibition. Jack McAuliffe is most often the only person mentioned as a founder.
Yeah, so that was interesting too, because I didn't realize that that was the case. You always hear about New Albion being the first craft brewery, but you never hear that was funded and owned by women. So.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Carol Stout of Stout Brewing Company, founded in 1987, is considered one of the first female brewmasters in the United States. Another female brewmaster, Terry Ferendorf, founded the Pink Boot Society as a way to empower women beer professionals. In 2008, they had only 22 members, and today they have more than 1,000. Women are still not the majority in the beer industry in any capacity.
Yeah. So that Wikipedia page has a ton of more associations with women and owning breweries, and women that own breweries, and also or just women in brewing in general. But I just kind of put a couple there because we already kind of were getting a little bit long with the topic. I didn't want to go too far, but there's a lot of women that are today are involved in brewing, and I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. I think it's going to grow. I think there are a lot more women that are enjoying beer, and they have the knack for wanting to brew something, or get into the brewing and get their take or their experience. They want to make their own beers that they would enjoy that maybe aren't being made right now. So yeah, and like I said, 18% of the brewers in our area are female. So that's pretty good. I mean, it is coming along, and they're making some great beer, award-winning beers, which is fantastic as well. All right, so that is our women in history. There's still a lot of history that we didn't cover. I covered the big spots. If you want more detail on those things, go visit the links, and you'll get some more detail on women in brewing. So there you go, Tara. I hope that this was able to fulfill a little bit of need for finding out about about the women that were brewing early on and what happened, and then how they're coming back and got around some of those rules that were introduced that made it a male only profession. I'm having trouble thinking of words today.
Me
you too, Chris. I think you're having trouble too.
Me too. I was staring at a screen all day, much like I'm doing right now, but was more focused on things like budgets and invoices and things that I'm very happy that my accountant does for us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he doesn't handle the stuff I was doing today, but I'm glad he does. Well, our taxes. Let's just say that.
Oh, yeah. So the taxes get extended. Were they still due on the 15th?
I don't know. Did you do yours?
Because I submitted all my taxes, and I just have them pull out of my account, and the only ones that pull out of my account were my state taxes. And my federal hasn't been pulled yet. So I'm like,
May 17th.
oh, so maybe they're going to hold off and not pull it until May 17th. Isn't that nice of the government to not take my money right away?
So I expected too. I was waiting for a tax payment to come out of our business account, and it was supposed to come out on April 15th.
Yeah.
But according to IRS.gov, the Treasury Department and the IRS announced today, March 17th, that they've extended the date for individuals in the 2020 tax year to automatically be extended from April 15th to May 17th. The IRS will be providing formal guidance in the coming days.
Okay. All right. You know, I should have been more. I don't know. I had the money. I had the money and I just wanted to pay it and get it out of there. I was pissed off. I had to pay, a couple grand. I know I pay plenty of taxes. I don't really know how to get out of paying taxes, I guess. But for me, I'm in the whole mindset that, yeah, no one likes paying taxes, but I also know that living in this country is not, you can't do it for free, right? You have to contribute. And so I contribute my part, and I don't get that upset. I hate writing that check out, every year. I try to break even, but when Trump changed the whole return thing, even putting in, I married zero, and I put in an extra, $100 a month in the federal to not have to pay, and I still have to pay. So I don't know what he did, but he totally screwed me up because I can't get away with not paying at the end of the year every single year. I don't understand. Well, it's ridiculous.
No, it's definitely ridiculous. And I was, kind of looking at it ourselves. You know what? You just go ahead and incorporate Tap the Craft, and then run everything through there.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm getting dinged for all the money we're bringing in. Yeah,
that's totally right.
Not that I do appreciate everything we're getting. It's helping pay the bills, and we're able to give some back to our listeners. So that's good. And maybe we'll get some hardware upgrades will happen in time. But right now I just want to make sure we can pay our hosting bills.
Yeah. Well, that's important. A great segue into, if you guys shop on Amazon, we have an affiliate link, and it's on our Facebook page. It's on our website. So we would really appreciate it if everybody hopped on there. And all my shortcuts, Denny, I've actually changed my shortcuts on every computer that I own for whether
to our link.
It's just to our link. I just click on it. You probably see something pop up just about every day from us.
Yeah, I mean, April's been kind of slow, but yeah, definitely the other months you definitely have been, you not only you, but I think some of our listeners as well, because there's some weird things that come up that I don't know who's ordering this stuff. I don't think it's all you, Chris, because I can tell what you order. Business stuff and dog stuff, right?
Yeah.
And stuff for your lighting and cameras.
Yeah, you can totally, like the toilet valves. Did you know those were me too? Or
was that you, the toilet valves?
Oh yeah.
I figured some of us were camping.
Yeah.
And
what else do we get? Some Zymox dog ear cleaner. Some Frigidaire water filters for our fridge, and a new printer, and some new phone.
Oh, you got a printer? I didn't see a printer.
Yeah, the printer. It's my old one took a dump, so I had to get another one. Yeah, got some hot sauce today that showed up from Amazon. Yellowbird, guys, if you're not familiar with Yellowbird hot sauce, you're not living. So all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah. So just visit our site, click that little banner that says Amazon, and just do your shopping, and we'll get a few cents with everything you buy. Fantastic.
We appreciate it.
No cost to you. We appreciate it. All right, Chris. Our new and noteworthy beers. I see that you're following suit with last episode and not having very many. I actually made up for last week, and I only put in 4 for mine, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. But go ahead and give us your new and noteworthy beers.
I will. And you know why I only had a couple? Now, our last show, why did you only have a couple of Denny?
So I am not drinking in the middle of the week.
Okay.
So I have a sleeping problem. I can't sleep. I get up every day at 3:30 in the morning, and I go and I work out for an hour.
Your usual time to get up? 3:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wake up. I have not set an alarm to wake up for 7 years.
Wow.
I've gotten up on my own, and it's slowly gotten from where I got up at 5 o'clock to 4:30 to 4, and now it's 3:30. Between 3:30 and 4, I just wake up and I'm just wide awake. So I get up, I go work out, I clean up, I go down, I read. I read a lot in the morning. I read a variety of different things. I love reading. I check my emails. I work on show notes if I have time. I work on editing shows. Now I've got our show. I've got Fermented Reality Beercast that I work on. So every week I'm working, on editing shows. I try to do some video stuff in between there. So I'm working on a lot of stuff in the morning, and I go to work, and then I get home, and what time do I go to bed? 9:30, and then I get up at 3:30 in the morning the next day and do it again. And that's just my way. So I've been trying to do things to help get my sleep cycle better. And one of the things that people have told me is that you shouldn't drink, like 6 hours before you go to bed. And I'm like, well, hell, I like to drink my beer. So I thought, okay, in the middle of the week, I will, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I will try not drink. I won't drink during those days. And then I will see if it helps my sleep. Well, guess what? It doesn't help my sleep at all. My sleep tracking is exactly the same. It's like a zigzag, chart where I'm restful, it just bounces up and down from restful to unrestful in small increments. I never get more than, if I get an hour of straight undisturbed sleep, that's a miracle for me. So the beer hasn't done it, but health wise, it's good to remove the beer from my diet. So for the last month, I haven't been drinking during the middle of the week. That's why you don't see me on Untapped. And then this last weekend, I didn't drink anything Saturday or Sunday because I had my shot on Saturday morning. So I didn't want to drink. So that was bad. A weekend before last. And then this weekend, I made up for it. I think I had like 12 beers or something like that because I was thirsty.
Yeah.
So that's why I hadn't been drinking.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to touch on, hey, you had a lighter list last week and I did too. I'm looking at my week this week. Monday is why I haven't had a lot of beers.
Okay. So you're still hungover from Monday.
I think Wednesday evening, Megan and I went out to dinner, and I had like a Roman Pils, like a Roman Pilsner. And that was the start that kind of got me over the hill, being okay with drinking again. Okay. Because admittedly, Monday night, and I'm going to say this now, whether it makes it back to the beer cast or not, I don't know if you saw the picture that I sent to our group, Denny, but on our little backtrack, I blew a 0.17.
I did see that. Yeah. I thought it was false.
No. I vomited that night.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't vomited from drinking in a long time.
Not my proudest moment, but man, it was a fun show. That's all I'm going to say.
It was fun. Yeah. You were pounding them pretty good.
So yeah, I'm finally getting back in the swing of things, having my first beer that I'm going to talk about being a rather large beer, not large in size, but large in ABV, from Cigar City. Their Spiritual Needs. And this is the beer that I made what Denny called the beer porn about. You can check it out on our YouTube page, or there's a link on our Facebook page too.
It's so good.
And you know what? I got it from Big Top Brewing. I got the idea from Big Top Brewing. I was looking at their Instagram account, and they made a video similar to that. And I went, oh, that's kind of cool. There's some slow motion in there and a little fun. And I took the idea from them. Anyway, the Cigar City Spiritual Needs is a barrel-aged Imperial Stout aged in rye whiskey barrels, but also aged on rye and buckwheat. Nice.
I'm not a big fan of buckwheat, but the rye barrel and rye is good.
Yeah. But this was really nice. This came from their El Catador Club, which is their bottle club that you can hop into every couple of, I don't know, it feels like every 6 months. They're like, oh, it's time to re-up. You gotta join a new club. But it was really good. And the fact that they're only putting it in 16 ounce or 16.9 ounce bottles or the 500 milliliter bottles makes it so much easier to enjoy.
Oh yeah.
So I was able to drink that one yesterday. Just sat down watching a couple of movies yesterday, just sipping on that beer, clocking in at 13.1%, I believe, and chocolatey, a little spicy from the rye and the buckwheat too. It was really good. It was nice. It wasn't like super hot or boozy or anything, just chocolatey and a little bit of barrel shining through and a little bit of spice in it too. That beer I gave a 4.25 from, or a 2, 4.252. And then, yeah, it's a good thing the show's on. We're getting to the end, huh?
You're doing good. You're doing good.
And then my second beer, Trek Brewing. I literally just texted John about this. I had this beer with dinner. Their Canteen Cream Ale. I was fortunate enough to spend a couple of hours with John and his wife Kristen. They were in the area. They were in Tampa Saturday. They went over to Angry Chair. They went over to Berry House. All right, so we interviewed those guys on the beer cast last week. And man, I was so glad we went there. Such good beer. And then went over to Coppertail. We had a quick bite to eat at Coppertail. Had a couple beers. Shared some laughs and some conversation over a few beers around the Tampa area. And I was fortunate enough to get a mixed 6-pack of what they're currently canning now. So Canteen Cream Ale was one of the beers, and I can't remember the other two that are in there, but I'm really looking forward to drinking them, because if the other two are as good as this cream ale, I could drink a lot of this cream ale. This is just, every beer I've had from him has been absolutely just terrific.
Awesome.
Terrific. I gave it a 4.25 on Untapped. And I had it with dinner tonight. And what do we have for dinner? Chicken and pineapple kebabs with some rice and beans. And it was just so easy to drink. So light, just refreshing. I want more. John, I'm going to need a keg. I'm going to need to ship me a keg. Cavalier is out of Ohio in the Cleveland area. They're also here in Florida. If you could get me a keg of that, I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, those are my two beers. Denny, I'm so glad to see that you've made up for your previous week specifically, but let me hear about some of your new and noteworthy beers.
Yeah, I kept it to 4. There was probably 6 or 7 I could have put on here, but I kept everything above 4.25 or above. So that says I had a good weekend. So actually the first beer though I had right after we recorded, I think the Friday after we recorded, the Friday after we recorded the last episode, I think I had this one. This is from Mother Earth Brewing. I've already had 2 beers tonight, the Milk Truck Latte, and now I'm drinking the Calais Creamsicle Cream Ale. And this one is their 4 Seasons of Mother Earth. And I talk about these 4 seasons. They do 4 releases a year. It's a seasonal
love that series.
And this is their spring of 2021. So brand new just for this year. It's their, I wrote it down here. It's the barrel aged coconut cake Imperial Stout. And this is a fantastic beer, really well done. What I wrote on Untapped here, it says, smells like chocolate cake, tastes like rich, dark chocolate cake batter with coconut caramel frosting and a snifter of bourbon. I mean, imagine having that slice of cake with a snifter of bourbon right next to it. I mean, really, the aroma is fantastic. The flavor, very similar. And the bourbon wasn't overwhelming. It was just a nice, subtle character in the finish. I said, this was really good, really thick and rich, not overly sweet, which is a good thing. A hint of booze, but manageable. And I gave this a 4.5 cap rating. This is my highest rated, well, one of the highest rated beers. This is one of 3 highest rated beers I had here, but fantastic. Mother Earth just nails it all the time. I just love the stuff they're doing, and I think they're an underrated brewery that I'm hoping, as they're growing, and they're growing pretty rapidly. They're actually opening a tap room in downtown Boise now. The brewery is in Nampa, which is 14 miles outside of Boise, but still close enough to be considered, in the area. And they're opening a tap room and a small, like, I think a pilot or a experimental little brewery to do some experimental stuff in downtown Boise. I've still, after how many years they've been there, I still haven't gone to Nampa to their tap room, because it's a long drive out there, and I don't have to drive out there and back and have a few beers. So I just don't want to do that. But now, as in Boise, it's much easier for me to go down there once they open that place up. So I'm looking forward to that. My phone turned off. Okay. That's the first one. The next one is a brewery that I talked about earlier in the year when we went to Spokane, Washington to buy my pickup truck, which I have now. We drove it back. We stopped at a fantastic bottle shop. And you know what? Now I can't think of I should have wrote the name down.
It was Bottles, wasn't it?
Bottles. Yes. Bottles in Spokane. They opened their doors to us an hour before they opened and let me go through there and rummage through and pick out a bunch of beers that we brought back. And one of the breweries that we brought back that I hadn't had was a Washington brewery called Varietal Beer Company. And I said, you know what? Pick the best beer and I'll take that one. And she says, well, this one's pretty good. So I grabbed it. Man, that beer was fantastic. I think I talked about it on the New Noteworthy. So guess what? I go to the co-op this weekend and I look on the shelves, and what do I see? I see a number of Varietal beers on the shelves in Boise. My eyes are like, I'm almost crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to this. So I pick up everything they had. Yeah. And so I picked up everything they had, and I wanted to try the beers. So this one is called the Sup Cuz IPA. I don't know if I did that justice, but it's a New England style IPA. And here's what I said on Untapped. I said, so glad Varietal is in Boise now. The beers I've had have been fantastic, and this one is no different. The hop selection is perfect with a dose of sweet citrus zest and subtle dank notes, and juicy too. Really well done IPA, 4.5 cap rating. With so many New England IPAs that all taste the same, I love it when breweries can step outside of that typical flavor profile and give you something different that is also fantastic. And that's what they did here. This Sup Cuz, really well done beer. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And even right after I did it, Varietal, checked in on or made a comment on my Untapped saying, thank you for picking it up. Well, you're welcome. And I told them, hey, I would love to have you interview on the podcast. So maybe they'll come back and they'll hit us up and we can have them on, on the air to talk about their brewery and their startup and how they're doing these fantastic IPAs that are not the typical beers you can get everywhere else, which is nice. All right. Next one is another brewery that I picked up when I was in Spokane. And again, did you change that to Lumberyard?
No.
Same thing happened last time. Lumberbeard Brewing.
Because there is a Lumberyard Brewing too.
I know, but I swore this time I checked and I spelt it correctly, but then all of a sudden it was Lumberyard again.
Lumberyard.
Yeah. So Lumberyard is now in Boise also, and I picked up several of their beers as well. And the one I'm going to talk about right now is their Keeping It Classic IPA. And this is not a hazy IPA. It's an IPA, but it's a classic IPA, but with a twist on it. So what I wrote in my Untapped is classic West Coast IPA, the kind of IPA my wife loves. Now, Sarah loves big piney IPAs, West Coast piney 3C hop IPA. She loves that. This one's got the pine really well up front, but it adds a little bit something to the finish here. It says piney and citrusy with just the right amount of bitterness. There is a flavor in the finish I was trying to pinpoint, and after a few drinks, it's melon. This beer has got this is also a unique beer where you taste that traditional West Coast hoppy IPA up front, and you expect that with that big hop up piney up front, you're going to get like a big bitterness in the finish. Now, you do get a decent piney bitterness in the finish, but at the very end of that bitterness is this kind of a sweet honeydew melon character at the end, which at first throws you off like, whoa, what I got here? Is this an off flavor? But then as you drink more of it, you realize, oh, it's like a little hint of melon in the finish, like a little bit of a sweet melon character in the finish that just kind of like cuts that bitterness and smooths it out with a nice, nice finish that I really enjoyed. 4.5 cap rating for this one. And my last beer is a Revision Brewing beer. I haven't talked about Revision for a while. And why haven't I talked about Revision for a while? Because like I already mentioned, I'm getting tired of drinking this hazy IPAs that all taste the same. And although Revision makes fantastic hazy IPAs, I just thought, I don't want to pay the big price for that. I'd rather pay that higher price for beers that are doing something a little bit different, like Varietal and Lumberbeard are doing. So I kind of have stepped away and haven't been buying Revision IPAs. But I have been buying everything else that they do besides IPA. And this one is one of those beers. It is their El Repaso Mexican style lager. I already love the lager they did, the Revision lager is what it's called. I love that beer. I love the stouts they do. And now I've got this Mexican style lager, and I really appreciate this one too. Straight up corn on the nose, mixed with bready dough malt that falls right into the flavor. Clean beer with refreshing and delicious. Really like this one. This beer, as far as a Mexican lager, it was like fantastic. 4.25 ratings. So that's my lowest rated beer that I have on my new and noteworthy for this week. But yeah, Revision not only can make some really tasty IPAs, but they make lagers and stouts and other styles that are just as good. So they're an all around, really good brewery. I really like them. So I want to add that Revision. On a side note, it's not a new or noteworthy beer, but it is something that I made a comment, I think, when we talked about the black IPA, or no, we didn't talk about black IPA. That's a topic we're going to talk about next episode, because Eric Gronley made me realize that I haven't talked about one of my favorite styles, which is black IPA or Cascadian Dark Ale. So that will be a little pre-warning. Our next episode will be on that style. But Stone released their sublimely self-righteous black IPA back in the market after being gone for 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer. And back when it was out back originally, I really liked that beer. The first time I had it was one of their anniversary bottles. I have right on it's their 15th anniversary was when they first released that beer. Now they're celebrating their 25th anniversary, I believe. Actually, I don't know if it's 25th or 30th now. I can't. They're up with it, but yeah,
they probably.
I think it's 20. It might be further than 25 because I haven't been drinking Stone at all, because I kind of went away from Stone because all their beers are kind of tasting the same and not very good. So, but I bought this because I wanted to revisit it, and I'll tell you what, there's so many better black IPAs out there. This one didn't hold up. I don't know if they changed something with the recipe. It came across far more ashy with the extreme roasted malt character. I like a good roasted malt in my black IPA, but I don't want it so strong that it's ashy. And this one just, even when it warmed up, it never kind of fully felt like balanced, right? It was unbalanced and not pleasant. So I won't be buying any more of that while it's available. It's a limited release, so it may not even be available anymore. But I want to make sure that that one, of all the black IPAs I've had lately, there's so many other breweries that are just knocking it out of the ballpark that I want to mention. So are they celebrating their 25th or 30th?
I wasn't able to find anything on it.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm not digging into it.
Don't worry about it. All right.
You know what? I'd much rather dig into, someone like Brian Seifler checking in and saying that he had a Clown Shoes haze cake the other day.
Oh.
Yeah. Just had enough bitter and enough citrus in that beer for him. So I love most things from Clown Shoes. They're up in New England. Massachusetts. I don't necessarily remember.
Did you
but I know
post
there's
that on our Facebook thing?
He did. Brian Seifler checked in, or just commented that he had a Clown Shoes haze cake. Their space cake. Back
Space
in
cake.
the day.
Oh,
one of my favorites.
Yeah. So I have only had Clown Shoes when I've been on the East Coast, but I'll tell you that all the ones I had, I really enjoyed. I mean, they made some pretty good beer. Now, there's controversy because they, you know, a lot of the names, like I have a tramp stamp bottle, I think, on my wall here. I mean, I don't know if they still have tramp stamp or not, but
they probably do.
They probably do, but there is some controversy in their bottle art and their naming schemes. Good. But the beers were pretty good. I mean, I don't know how they would hold up now because things have changed. There's so many good breweries out there that maybe they won't hold up now if I were to have it, now versus back when I had it 10 years ago or 8 years ago, whenever it was. But
I haven't had a ton of them recently, but I do remember that was a brand that I would search out pretty frequently.
All right, Chris, we're going to have a reasonable size show. Even with all that content we had, we're still going to keep it down to around an hour and a half, I think. Yeah. So before we end the show, I always want to give a chance to raise a glass to someone like to raise a glass to. So who would you like to raise a glass to tonight?
I have a lot of glasses to raise tonight.
Oh, nice.
First, I want to say a big happy birthday to Tom Joseph. His birthday was on the 17th.
Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. So cheers to you, Tom. I also would love to raise a glass to John and Kristen Ream. Again, guys, thank you so much for coming out and spending some time with Megan and myself just to check out a couple breweries, grab a couple beers, enjoy some laughs, and
nice.
Just I finally got to meet them.
Did Russ come along too?
Thank you for bringing that up because I wanted to make sure I covered that. Today this was like what, the second I posted that on our Facebook page too. That was like the 2-year anniversary of the Russ is real hashtag. Yeah, I still don't think he's real, but hey, whatever. I bet you're curious to know what we're talking about, aren't you guys?
Go back and listen to episode 100.
Was it episode 100?
I think it was 100 we had Russ on.
Was it? Or somewhere around there. Find out what we're talking about. You can find that episode right here. No, it's not on YouTube. Yeah, it's not going to be on YouTube. Go hop on our website. You'll find out what we're talking about, tapcraft.com. So John and Kristen, thank you again for the beers. Thank you for the good times. And I hope you guys are enjoying your vacation here in Florida. And then Manny Velez, thank you so much for my really cool bottle opener, right? Again, it says Tap the Craft on it. It's really cool.
That's classic right there.
It's he handed this to me, and I'll be honest, Denny, I had a butterfly knife when I was not a kid, but
when you were a punk.
Yeah, like when
were you ever a punk?
I'm still a punk. What are you talking about? But I had a butterfly knife when I was like 13, 14 years old, and I had some fun, learning how to play with them and stuff like that, so we could open them up. But it was really cool to him handing me this, 20, 25 years later, and immediately remembering how to use this. So Manny, cheers to you, buddy. Thank you so much. Salud. And we appreciate that. Denny, who would you like to raise a glass to?
Yeah, I'll start and raise my glass to William Slimmer, who is our Patreon toast of the night. Thank you, William, for your support. We really appreciate it. I've been seeing you checking some great beers on Untappd when I've been on there this weekend, so keep that up. And raise another glass to Varietal Beer Company. Why not? I'm going to raise a glass to a brewery because I appreciate good beer, and I'm glad that they made the effort to come down to Boise because there's so many breweries that don't make it here, right? And they're taking a chance on us. And even while I was at the co-op buying beer, there was a guy I was chatting with who was looking for beer, and I said, if you like IPAs, I can't speak for this one here, the ones they have here, but I've had their other IPAs and they were fantastic. This Varietal Beer Company is a beer, and he just on my just chatting for a few seconds, he said, you know what? I like a good IPA and I'll take a chance. And he grabbed one and went off with it. So, hey, I'm spreading the good word too. I'm glad you're in town. Thank you. Cheers to you for taking the risk in Boise. And I hope that we pay off for you and you can keep delivering great beer to my area. And of course, being a former serviceman, I want to raise my glass. Cheers. And thank all those who have served and are currently serving in the U.S. military services, protecting our freedoms. I hope all who are deployed can return home safely to their families very soon. And Chris, why don't you go ahead and give a shout out or a toast to our sponsor?
At the forefront of the craft beer movement, Brewer Shirts was one of the first to create apparel that celebrates the art of brewing and the love of fine beer. Never too trendy, always comfortable, and offering affordable quality. They screen print their gear by hand in their studio using eco-friendly inks, materials, and processes. Visit their online store at brewershirts.com, and you can find this really cool glass that I'm drinking out of right now. And use the coupon code TAPTheCraft2020 to receive 15% off full-priced items.
And you can find the beers and links to the articles mentioned on the show in the show notes located on the show post at Open.
Wow, really?
That was going back for a while.
Throwback Monday.
No, you won't find it on Open Forum Radio, but you will find it at tapthecraft.com. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, I can be found on Twitter, Instagram, and on Tapped at Loose Screw. And Chris, how can our listeners follow you?
You'll never find me on Twitter at Chris_McKenzie82, but you can definitely find me on Untapped Instagram at MCK1345. And of course, you can always interact with me through our Facebook page or our Instagram page, YouTube, all of our social stuff at Tap the Craft.
All right. It is last call. It's time to bring the show to a close. We want to thank you for downloading and listening. We ask you to please tell a friend. And of course, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, Google Play, Castbox, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and now on Amazon Podcasts, or however you listen to your podcast. And as a reminder, we release a new show every 2 weeks. Now go out there and spread the good word of craft beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.